we probably enjoy playing live more now than we ever have, because we know we can do it now.
Yeah.
We can relax. We've proved ourselves, and we have a massive following, a global following. We can go anywhere in the world and play, arenas, and that's a wonderful position to be in. So it settles your nerves, and it allows you to enjoy yourself.
Well, gentlemen, how lovely to see you again. What a nice surprise to see you in the flesh this time. We had a lovely time down the line, and I was buzzing talking to you, and as someone who bought food for thought back in the day, I'm buzzing to see you again. Let's wind the clock. We know why we're here, and we're going to talk about the tour. But I just want to rewind the clock right back to the beginning, and to Birmingham, and a place that was at that time so rich for stuff like heavy metal. Mm-hmm. What was it that attracted you to something that wasn't English but was clearly Jamaican?
Well, the thing about Birmingham is it is rich musical culture, but it's not just heavy metal. That's one of the musics that came out of Birmingham, One of the other ones, where we came from, we didn't hear heavy metal. We never heard heavy metal. We were aware of it, but it wasn't on our radar at all. What we were surrounded by was Asian pop music, Bollywood music, and Jamaican pop music, which, of course, was ska before it was rocksteady and reggae, And in the area we grew up in, that's what we listened to, was Jamaican music. And people are always surprised that we formed a band and played reggae, but to us that was a natural thing.
That's what was blasting out of all the windows.
Absolutely. And
the Windrush
Birmingham
generation
is an absolute cultural melting pot.
Yeah.
And musically, there's all sorts of music from the 60s till now, many different types, all sorts of genres of pop, rock, and reggae, of course. Steel Pulse also coming from Birmingham.
Yeah, we'll get to Steel Pulse later.
But I think it works against Birmingham in a way, because they do define things like a Liverpool sound and even a Manchester sound. There's even a London sound, but there's not a Birmingham sound, because we're so diverse. There's so many different people that are living there that you can't pin it down to one vibe, one sound.
Yeah.
And I love that, but it just makes it more difficult to define.
Yeah, but I'd say that's a strength rather than a weakness.
Absolutely, it is,
right?
Yeah.
It's what makes me very proud of being a Brummie.
Yeah, I mean, with that diversity thing, one of the things that blew me away when I first saw you on Top of the Pops, I think it was, if my memory's right, it was Dave Lee Travis introducing you, right? And I thought, wow, there's black boys and white boys in the same band. And of course, we take that for granted now.
Of
but
course.
But you're trailblazers, because in those days that was a huge deal.
And again, we didn't even think of that. We weren't aware of that until the media was saying to us, "How the hell did you become a band?"
Yeah.
Because to us, if you grabbed 8 kids off the streets where we grew up, the chances are they'd look pretty much like us. They'd be mixed, all races, all types. And that's what Balsall Heath, which is where we grew up, that's what Balsall Heath in Birmingham looked like to me, was, every different race, every different colour, and just like the 8 original, guys in the band.
Yeah. And it was more than just black and white, because there was Irish and
Exactly.
English. You were
a half Arab.
You're right. I mean, you were a sort of a flag bearer for diversity back in the 70s.
My infants and junior school was so diverse. I don't think that there was a dominant culture there. It was just, everybody got on with it. And also Birmingham's one of the few major cities that doesn't come out of a medieval port, or hasn't got that history. So you're kind of plonked in the middle of England and told to get on with it, and we did. That's what we did.
Yeah, and the influx of immigrants in the 50s just completely changed the landscape of Birmingham. Where I lived, there was an Irish family underneath us. There was a Jamaican family on the left, and there was an Indian Sikh family on the right, and that was normal. You know,
Fantastic.
That's what it was like.
And that's the 60s, you know, that was the 1960s in Birmingham. That's what it was like.
You must have had access to such great food when you were
Yeah, great
kids.
food, great music. What more do you want?
Yeah,
you know?
food and music. Well, music is food, isn't it? Well, gentlemen, we're having a Bob Marley Day, tribute day on Thursday because I don't know if you have a date in your diary for this, but he died on the 11th of May.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to pay tribute to who I believe is the greatest pop star of all time. I'd love to get a comment from each of you, actually, about the great man.
Well, the simplest answer to that is that I believe he was the catalyst for our band. You know, we saw him play live in
76.
Birmingham in 1976, the summer of 76. And that was when I turned to my younger brother and all his schoolmates and said, you know, we were all at that show. We all came out totally, you know, it was, what an experience. You know, we all came out saying, God, that's what we want to do. And that was, I remember outside that venue, the Odeon in Birmingham, saying, if you're ever serious, boys, tell me, because I want in. You know, I desperately want to do that, what we just saw. You know.
And what would you add to that?
Yeah, but you know, Bob Marley has kind of replaced Che Guevara on students' walls, you know, on a poster. He's like that liberating, you know, political figure that young people have been really attracted by ever since, you know. So he's a phenomenal artist, a phenomenal poet, and in any genre, he would have been right at the top of the tree, you know. So.
Yeah, I think it's a real shame that that the Wailers didn't stay as the Wailers. It became Bob Marley and the Wailers, and lost the original Bunny Wailer and Peter Tosh. You know, if those three had stayed together, I think it would have been even more incredible. But, you know,
well, then,
people fall out, and you know, he went on and did his own thing, and he's no doubt about it. He was a genius.
Well, absolutely. And if they'd stayed together, then they would have sold more records than you. But you must have to pinch yourself to think, oh my God, you know, actually in terms of record sales, we're bigger than Bob Marley.
Yeah.
How did this, you know, how did this
I
little
wouldn't
band
like
from...
to say
Is that
though.
true? Is that
It is,
true?
yeah, it is.
I've
looked, I've done my research.
Wow, crikey.
Yeah.
I mean, that's quite humbling, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, in a way, but it's also very satisfying because, you know, we were young kids from inner city Birmingham who had a dream of being in a reggae band and became the biggest reggae band in the world, you know, which is a phenomenal journey.
Absolutely.
You must have to pinch yourself
Still,
sometimes.
on a
Every day.
daily basis, we still can't quite believe we got away with it. You know.
So, you mentioned, you know, Bob Marley as a politico, you know, and one of the things that struck me about your early career, from Food for Thought actually, was that apart from the multiculturalism, was how political you were. That was really important for you, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Still is.
and still is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, we've when we write our own lyrics. I mean, when we do covers, we tend to do covers of love songs generally. But when we write our own songs, they tend to be political and always have been. And we always felt that if we were going to say something, then it might as well be something that we thought was important. You know, important to say. And when you get successful and you have a platform, then it feels like it's what you've got to do. It's incumbent upon you to say something, you know, that you think's important.
Well, you must be very angry now. You must be feeling angry now because it's almost like it's so similar. Like the whole kind of political ecosystem, what's happening, and the gap between rich and poor. I don't want to get too political, but it must light a fire in your bellies.
Yeah, I think in the 80s and 90s they brought in sort of laws of equality and it was shunned. You know, it was looked down on if people were overtly racist in public. But then when Brexit came along and people like Farage and all those idiots, you know, it became acceptable again. And you know, it's I would say in some ways it's more racist now than it was back in the 70s. You know, because
it's more acceptable to be openly racist.
Yeah, the youth culture was anti-racist back then.
Yeah, it feels. I mean, we both were kids in that era, and I was a brown kid, and it was definitely more racist then. I had bricks thrown at me and stuff. But I know what you mean. That in the context of the world being the way that it is, it feels very weird when my mate gets called, like, I don't even want to say the word, in the queue for the post office. You know, I know what you mean. But yeah, like I know you've been writing new music and stuff, so this must be something that is leaching into your...
We're still writing about the same things we were writing on the first album, you know, because nothing has really changed. Everything is cyclical, and the depressing thing is that nothing has changed. Nothing's gotten better, and in many ways it's worse, you know. So, yeah, we've still got a fire in our belly, and we also have a new singer and songwriter who's coming to us with new songs, you know, and he's full of the same beans we were full of.
Great.
You know?
That's good to know, because, you know, inspired by artists like you, people will hopefully vote with their feet.
Yeah, well, he grew up on us. So
Good. So let's go to something less depressing. Tell me the story of how that amazing woman, Chrissie Hynde, gave you your first break.
We were doing. We were on our first year of proper gigging. We were doing our first sort of mini tour of London, and we were playing
tiny venues,
pubs and clubs, you know, like the Hope and Anchor, and
it was the Rock Garden.
You were in the Rock Garden,
yes. That she actually came. She said that someone said to her, you know, you want a support band, go and see these guys, they're great. So she came to see us, and then she came backstage and offered us her tour, which was already sold out because she had a #1 album and a #1 single. So she didn't need to sell tickets. Obviously, the tour was sold, so she didn't mind having a unknown band opening for her. And she loved what we were doing. It was that simple. We released the single while we were on that tour, and by the time we finished doing 30-odd dates with her around the UK, we had a top 5 single. So she launched our careers, literally. We did maybe 30 shows before we met her, and in the next 6 weeks we did another 30 shows with her. And so she doubled our experience and literally launched our careers.
And during that tour we were with her, we released our own track, Food for Thought, and that was a hit by the end of the tour. And we did the whole thing all over again with us headlining.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we did book exactly the same tour, the same venues and everything, and we sold it out.
Yeah, such a heartwarming story.
With one hit single.
It was quick, wasn't it? You know, we went from nothing to famous so quickly. We kind of had to learn in public, really.
Our first record was a hit, and that was, you know, we were immediately on top of the pops.
Yeah. With Dave Lee Travis introducing it.
Amazing.
But what an amazing woman. You know, I always loved Chrissie Hynde, and I always saw her as this real politico, and aside from her incredible songwriting and her amazing stage presence, I always thought she was an amazing woman, and I was kind of like starstruck by her when I was a kid. But talking to you guys and seeing the Danny Boyle thing, Pistol, I didn't know, I didn't know how her story was interwoven with yours, UB40 and the Sex Pistols, the sort of common denominator is the amazing Chrissie Hynde. Incredible.
And amazing. She's lovely.
Oh, I bet. So how come it took you so long to make a record with her then?
Logistics, really. I mean, they were very hardworking. She was having a ball, we were having a ball, and we just kept bumping into each other on the road, literally. We'd meet in the same town, we'd be staying in the same hotel or whatever, and we'd bump into each other, and she kept saying, when are we going to make this record? When are we going to do a record? You guys.
Yeah, so basically you got famous really quick. She was already really famous, and it's very hard for famous people to get together because they're so busy.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But we were good friends, I mean, our saxophone player died recently, and she was at the funeral, We've stayed friends with her for a whole lifetime.
Yeah, it's Astro.
Which is lovely.
Yeah. No, not Astro, Brian.
Oh, yes, of course, sorry. Yeah,
Brian,
yeah, bless him. I just want to track back to your love of reggae and it being... you being so political and reggae being so political, because you mentioned Handsworth Revolution, and it made me think reggae's always been a great vehicle for insurrection, hasn't it?
Yeah, although I have to say that when I was first listening to reggae, it wasn't political music. It was Jamaican pop music.
Yeah.
And
Before
most
Catch a
of the
Fire.
yes, of course,
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
Marley.
Yeah.
Marley
Yeah.
changed the whole landscape.
Yeah.
You know, and the way everyone thought of reggae. But before that, with your, Ken Booths and Desmond Deckers and Jimmy Cliff, etc.
Yes.
They were having hits in the UK charts. It wasn't like reggae started with Marley, which a lot of people seem to think. When I was listening to it, when it was ska and when it became reggae, it wasn't apolitical music. Yes, there were political songs. People did do politics. Jimmy Cliff was political, but it was Jamaican. It was the dance music of Jamaica at the time. It was about a good time. It was about partying. I was introduced to reggae in the blues parties, Jamaican blues parties in Birmingham. And it wasn't political music to me as a 12, 13-year-old kid. It was just the best dance music I'd ever heard. Really. It was the sexiest music I'd ever heard.
Yeah.
This massive throbbing bass, that's what it was all about for me. And it didn't become political really until the 70s. Yeah. But I was introduced to reggae when it happened. Rocksteady grew from ska in 67, something like that. When I was a young teenager, and that was when it happened. And to me, it wasn't political music.
Yeah.
And it wasn't politicized until Marley. Really.
Yes. Yeah. But wonderful that he inspired you.
Absolutely.
Well, you can imagine, can't you, that we toured since with Ashton Family Man Barrett. He's come on stage and played the bass for us on tunes.
Wow.
That's like you're living your dream, aren't you? Meeting your heroes like
That's
that.
incredible. So, you mentioned the genesis of Jamaican pop music, and we have to give credit to those FM radio waves going across the Caribbean from Miami and stuff, and inspiring them and inspiring them to do covers, to do versions, as they call. Version culture is so strong has always been so strong in Jamaican music, and that was the thing before it sort of got political. And obviously, you are very famous for your own versions versions of songs, taking nothing away from your songwriting, because for me, Food for Thought was a mind-blowing record because it had the accessibility of Lovers Rock and the coolness of a Lee Scratch Perry of a dub record, and I thought it was amazing. But I just want to track back to some of your covers and ask you a double-barreled question, which is, which one was the most fun to make, or which one really warmed your heart when you made it, and then which one do you love playing live the most? If you had to pick, if you could only play one more cover at a gig, right, what would it be and why?
That's a hard one.
Really? I know, because you've done so many.
The whole point of the Labour of Love series was all about showing where we come from, why we love the music we do, and how we got turned on to reggae, and the formative years of reggae, from Rocksteady to the early reggae. And the list of songs which I compiled, was my record collection, basically. So how could I pick a favourite from that?
Okay.
If I had to pick only one that I could play, it would probably be Kingston Town.
Yeah.
Because I just loved, as a child, I loved that tune.
I think with me, because it's been in the set ever since we did it and has remained in the set, I think Here I Am has got to be one of our best covers. We've never dropped that from a set. We've played it always.
It's a great live number.
For 40 years we played that because it's such a great live number. Old R&B tune, obviously, but a beautiful tune, and I love playing it.
I'm so glad you said that, because I don't do weddings, but I did my cousin's wedding, and she said, "You got to play Kingston Town by UB40." It was like, it was the edict that came down.
I think at one point it was the second most popular karaoke tune after Robbie Williams' Angels.
That's something.
And vote in some Sunday magazine, it was voted the most favourite, number one holiday tune
Yeah.
that people pick on their holidays.
Wow.
So, you know.
Well, let me reframe that question, because it is like, given how many, it's like choosing a favourite limb. Which one of those songs, of other people's songs, makes you feel the most emotional? Makes you wanna, or when you first mastered it and you heard it, just kind of took your breath away and made you want to cry?
Oh, man.
One of my favourites is Please Don't Make Me Cry. I think we did a good version of that, very simple,
I was
very
just
open.
about to say that.
There you go.
Yeah. But, there's so many. But, yeah, I think Please Don't Make Me Cry, to me, because it's so soulful, it's just a great number to perform.
And
Really enjoy it.
and the joy of meeting the artist, the original artist, which we've done many times over the years, to meet them and have them thank you for recording their song, when, to us, it's just like the ultimate tribute, because these are the songs that we literally grew up on, and the songs that made us want to play and made us want to play reggae, So,
What was it John Holt said? Of course, we all love John Holt. So sad when he died. He was one of the greatest singers that's ever lived, up there with Frank Sinatra and whoever. And I think, what was it he said?
What, when we met him in Miami?
Yeah.
And he said to me, the first time I ever got paid for a song that I wrote, got paid anything for a song that I wrote, was when you guys recorded Where You to the Ball.
Great.
Which we're very proud of.
Oh, brilliant.
And that's, so many artists have said that, because the whole reggae scene in Jamaica is one of rip-off.
Of piracy, yes.
Of course, all the producers were the ones making the money.
Yes.
And the artists would sign a release form, get their whatever, $50,
Yes.
and never see any more again, because
of
the
weed.
producers kept... registered themselves as the owners of the song, and they got all the money for years, until we started recording those songs. And then for the first time, those artists suddenly started receiving royalty checks, and many of them have said how it changed their lives.
Yeah,
that's
and one of the
fantastic.
most moving stories with that is obviously Lord Creator, who wrote Kingston Town. He was on his uppers, he was losing his house, he was ill in hospital, couldn't afford to pay the bills, and suddenly he got a massive check come through the door, and it saved. And he makes sure that he come whenever we've gone to Jamaica. He's always been there with his family, just to show us respect, and says that we saved his life, and I'm enormously proud of that.
Those are the goosebump moments,
Right.
when you meet a guy and his whole family. He brings them along. He brought them to the airport just to say thank you.
Oh, bless
Because
him.
it changed his life. And he said, you changed my life. You built me a house and you paid my hospital bill.
Oh, brilliant.
And I had no idea how I was going to do that until I got a check for your recording of Kingston Town. The first check.
That is so great. Well,
And it was tearful. I
Oh,
promise you.
I bet. Well, in the context of that, I have to ask, knowing that your success is worldwide, how did it go for you in Jamaica? I'd like to know, to put that in context, I'd like to know, tell me about the first gig that you ever did there, and then tell me about the last gig that you ever did there. So let's
The
start
only
at the
gigs we've
beginning.
ever played in Jamaica, as far as I know, as far as I remember, was Sunsplash. We played Sunsplash a couple of times, and it was brilliant both times. We always get treated like royalty over there. It's amazing. And I think it's because of the Labour of Love series. I think it's because of the covers that we did that gave a new lease of life to those songs, but also to the artists, the original artists, and gave them an income that they'd never had before.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, we're held with a deal of respect,
Yeah, and also because you've popularised.
Yeah, and of course they're good
Music.
records too.
Yeah, and
We were just touring in America with it was on the bill. Maxi Priest was on the bill.
The Wailers.
The Wailers were on the bill. Couple of other bands, and they give us the utmost respect, because they know we take the music seriously. We're not just an ersatz band who were just copying something else. We really respect the music and try and reproduce the music with as much respect as we can.
do you still get the same buzz from playing live? Let's talk about playing live.
Absolutely. I think
More.
we were just talking about it actually earlier today, and saying that we probably enjoy playing live more now than we ever have, because we know we can do it now.
Yeah.
We can relax. We've proved ourselves, and we have a massive following, a global following. We can go anywhere in the world and play, arenas, and that's a wonderful position to be in. So it settles your nerves, and it allows you to enjoy yourself. And we love doing what we do.
Yeah.
We love
this year-
recording new music and then taking it on the road, and getting the fans' seal of approval, if you like.
And you
And
must.
just this year we played. We did a sellout tour of New Zealand and Australia. We played to 100,000 people on a beach in Spain. 70,000 people in Mexico a couple of weeks ago. Another 10,000 people in the Cayman Islands last week. We're constantly, going to these far-flung places where people are coming and singing our songs back to us, and it's a beautiful thing.
And here's the thing, you must be so effing tight, because the thing about being a musician is
We're pretty
practice
good.
really does make perfect. And you've been playing together for so many decades. You must be telepathic on stage.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
are.
I think,
We are.
that's what makes a band that's been going as long as us so tight. Absolutely, and it's what, again, it allows you to relax, because you trust everybody that you're playing with. You're going to do the job, and it allows you the time and the space to enjoy yourself.
Well, your UB45 tour is going to be incredible. I mean, with a back catalogue like yours, when you've had 50 hits, and how many bands can say that? Certainly not the Beatles. Like, how do you decide what to play in a set?
It's difficult.
Yeah.
Of course, there are certain songs you have to play.
Yes, or there'd be a riot.
like Kingston Town,
Yeah.
like Food for Thought.
Red Wine, yeah.
Can't Help Falling in Love, Red Wine. There
Yeah.
are songs
Yeah,
we
yeah,
have to do. But we try to mix it up. We try to resurrect old songs that you might not have heard for a while, and we lose other songs. We're constantly recording new albums, so we like to play a couple of tracks off our new album. Whether you want to hear it or not, we're going to play you something new.
Well, there has to be a balance between what they want to hear and what you want to play.
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
you'll get
exactly.
more of a buzz off playing a
Yeah.
new song, won't
Of
you?
course, but on the whole, we're on playing what they want to hear.
Yeah.
Because, that's why we're here.
Yeah.
Is because they kept buying our records for the last 40 years, and obviously we're going to play them the songs they want to hear. But because we're not a cabaret act, we also want them to hear our new stuff.
Yeah.
So we play not too many, maybe 2 tracks off a new album, every time. And that's what we've been doing as long as we've been going. That's what we'll continue to do. As long as we're making new records, we'll include a couple of tracks in the set,
Good
but
on
they
you.
will always get the ones they've come to hear.
Great. Good. Well, I think they need to get you away. But let me just ask you, is there, seasoned pros that as you are, is there anything that you get nervous about these days, about touring or about, a gig? Is it just all smooth sailing now?
No, I look forward to enjoying the show. I'm sure that physically there's still butterflies just before you go on.
Yeah.
Because you're going out in front of, as Jimmy said, it can be anywhere between, 10 and 100,000 people. But, as I keep saying, the great joy is that we've been doing it so long. We now know we're good at it. We believe in ourselves, and that allows you to enjoy it. And I really don't have nerves in that way anymore that I did have years ago. When we started, I used to be terrified because I always imagined something going wrong.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
if something goes wrong, we laugh.
Yeah.
Well, finally, where do you look forward to playing the most? What crowd
Well,
gives you the biggest buzz?
The Marys, always.
Yeah.
New Zealand is a fantastic audience.
Love their reggae,
And
don't
the
they?
Marys
Yeah,
love
they do.
reggae,
Yeah.
absolutely love reggae. And we're friends with Mary reggae artists. We always have them supporting us. House of Shem are a brilliant band that supports us.
That's right, you've
that we've-
co-written with some
that we've worked with on
heavyweight
the
Maoris.
Bag of Rhythm album. Yeah. So that's always great. Holland is always great because we've had more number ones in Holland than we've had in the UK.
Really?
Probably more commercial success in Holland than anywhere else, any other country in the world. So that's a great place to play. But we love playing anywhere.
Yeah.
Especially places we've never been, and there's very few of those left. We're again, we were asked that, and I said I'd love to play mainland China because we'd never been to China. We played Hong Kong, but
Yeah.
we've never got to mainland China.
That needs
and
to
that's
happen.
something I'd love to do.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to see you in Birmingham because I mean, a hometown gig for you must be pretty special.
Oh, they're
We're
always-
playing
they're always great.
our own backyard, actually, where we've got the band together and we're doing a gig in the local park. I don't know
In
when
Moseley,
it is.
where
in
we,
August, I
where
think.
we started.
Fantastic.
You know,
Yeah.
that's
So we're looking forward to that.
that's going to be our 45 celebration. It's called the Coming Home gig.
Great. Well, that's a great note to end on. I know you've got to go and do another interview with someone else.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, lovely to see you.
It's great seeing you.
Fantastic.
Pleasure.
All right. Cheers, boys.
Yeah.
Thanks.